I'm lucky to be here. And I aspirated. And I had to be on a ventilator for days. But I also had this like bright light. It was just like all white, and I could feel the warmth. And it's like I was moving closer and closer. A loving God is not going to turn you away. You have to self-repent when you go. I mean, you're going to feel all the emotions that you made other people feel. You're going to know how they felt. And you have to choose to forgive yourself so you can move on and have that eternity.
So vision. So vision. I want to welcome everybody back to another episode of The Soul Inspired. Today we have Renee Graham with us. She has had a near-death experience. We're going to talk about that experience and what led up to it. So, first of all, thank you so much, Renee, for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me and working with me with the schedule.
Absolutely. I was just happy to get you back or get you on, right? Because I think we scheduled a little bit earlier on and then we rescheduled, but I'm really happy to finally
Yeah.
have you here. And I, most of the conversations, anyone that's used to the Soul Inspired knows that I kind of go back in time a little bit, go to a little Renee, and I try to get a little brief overview of what your life was like growing up. But if we can go back prior to the NDE into your childhood and just a little info on who you were growing up.
Okay. I was an only child. I grew up in Virginia, and my mom had some mental illness. Uh, I went through a lot as a child, a lot of childhood trauma, abuse, just different things. And the main thing that kind of set everything in motion was at 14 years old, my mom took her life.
Ah,
And I was in and out of hospitals as a teenager and just a lot of depression and anxiety and being passed around from family members and that kind of stuff.
wow. Okay, so at 14, your mother passed. Okay.
Yes.
And that's there's two things that's tough about it. My first career field was as a youth social worker, and I worked with pregnant teens, and they were usually between 12 and 15. And so I already
Uh,
know the difficulty of that age. And then on top of it, you
yeah.
lose your mother. So that would have been quite a uh, wild time to go through that. And you know, I don't want to say it like this, but it's almost lucky that you're here today because that's a tough age to continue on. So I just wanted
It
to,
really was. And there was a lot of bullying. I went to school in a small town. So I was a cheerleader, all that. And then after what happened with my mom, I kind of went downhill, was acting out, doing some things that I guess middle school kids didn't understand. So I was pretty much bullied and told to get out of the school by my principal.
mm,
So yeah, it was tough. But I'm here today and I can
right.
understand
Yeah.
what other people go through a lot more now.
hmm Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear you kind of went through that. Did you have a religious upbringing at all besides that, or was it just kind of,
I did. My dad's father was a minister actually. And he was wonderful through it all, but they kept me in youth group and I was in youth group one time and a lady told me that my mom probably went to hell because she took her life.
mm,
And I didn't go to church for a long time after that.
wow.
So
Okay.
I know that now not to be true, but
hmm So you, so that was kind of your impression on the religious side of things because they went immediately to
yeah,
that place. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and through talking to so many people who've both had people who've left this world that way that they saw on the other side who were perfectly
Mm.
fine to people who attempted to do that, which I will be honest, there were moments of some people I've spoke with in those places where they do go to a place that's not great. I think it's
Oh yeah,
self-inflicted, but generally once they discover it's within themselves, they kind of get out of it and they,
yeah,
so the hope is that, they all figure that out. I'm not saying they all do that. I'm just telling you from what I've talked to with people, but for the
yeah.
general idea is that it's not what we've been led to believe a lot of times through the religious sector of things.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but that's hard to hear. I mean, again, you're young there at that time. So
Yeah.
you move into young adulthood. Was there any challenges in that stance? Like,
Um,
I'm just wondering when this NDE kind of came about. Like, how, when and where?
okay, so to get you there, I met a guy. This is very prominent. I met a guy in one of my hospital stays. We were 15, but he lived several hours from me, but we were in touch and we were pretty much like, that first love, you really love each other. I became pregnant at 18. And I know I'm probably going to get some flack on this, but my family did not want me to have a baby. I was on some medication for depression. He lived far away. I ended up not having that baby,
Mhm.
which that comes back up in my story. I kind of took that really hard, and there was a time we split up for a little bit when we were in our 20s, and I became pregnant again, and I had my now son, Tyler. And so I just kind of went on living my life, and all of a sudden I stopped hearing from him. And that's even when we were not actually together, we would still talk because that's how much we loved each other. It's almost like we knew in time we would be married, we would be together, whatever. Um, so I went about my life. I never heard another word from him. And then this is where everything starts. Um, there was a lot of in between, but I won't get into all that. But pretty much struggled with depression and everything throughout my whole life, CPTSD, all that. Um, I was on TikTok and I had never gotten a reading or nothing. I ended up getting a reading from a lady that I saw after watching her for a bit. And it was for my mother. I wanted to hear from my mom. And he came in during the reading. He came in. Come to find out, he never ditched me. He never stopped talking to me. He actually died in a car accident on impact. And
Wow.
back then, when he passed, social media was just coming anew, and he had a house phone, and I had been calling it, and it just, I guess the number got disconnected. So I had to verify everything. So I got back in touch with his family, and they, of course, embraced me and then told me they were sorry they didn't let me know. But, I guess everything happened so fast. Um, so he had been gone that whole time. And I took that really hard. This is where my downfall started because our child would have been his dad's only biological grandchild. I just felt so much immense guilt for even thinking that he left me. And at the same time, my stepsister passed. And then a few months later, my stepmom passed. I lost a lot of other people in 2020. So I was just at a really bad place. So I attempted twice, but the first time it was like everything, it was just one bottle of pills. The second time is where I had my experience, and I don't even know what clicked that day, but I took like 9 bottles of pills. I'm lucky to be here. And I aspirated. And I had to be on a ventilator for days. And in that time, I felt like I could see my dad. And I verified this with him later and my daughter when they would come in. And he was talking to me and he patted my leg and he's like, "It's going to be okay. You're going to make it through this." But I was looking at him from above, like kind of like up in the corner.
Mm.
And then my daughter is like, "Mom, if you just wake up, we'll watch movies and, we'll spend time together," because she's a teenager. She's at that age. She don't want to spend time with me. I'm
Right.
not cool.
Right.
So I asked
That's
him
with
about that.
everybody, by the way. That's
Oh, yeah.
I have a teenager myself. It's the same. I got little ones too, but the teenager one, they're like, no, they want nothing to do with you. So I get
Right.
it.
Unless they want something.
Right. That's right.
Um, but I also had this like bright light. It was just like all white and I could feel the warmth. And it's like I was moving closer and closer. And I didn't talk to him, but surprisingly, Brian is who I saw. I did not see my mom, which is shocking. I know she's there though. I know she's there. It's like kind of just like a knowing, but he was there, and it's almost like he had our baby, which was a boy, and he was just holding him, and he was like it's like telepathically talking to me, like, this is not your time. You've got to go back. You've got work to do. We will be together later, but you've got to go back. And then it's almost like I was hearing things from my childhood. It's so hard to explain, but it's like in the background, I could hear things from my childhood, almost like a movie screen was back there. And it was the most random. I have a big yellow and black butterfly right there.
Mm.
That is so cool. Um, it was the most random stuff, but I remember being pulled backwards, and it was so fast. It was like I didn't see no colors, nothing like that, but it was like a fast pull, like a suction from a vacuum. And the next thing I knew, I was awake and I was in the hospital, and I was like, what's going on? Like nobody would tell me. I'm like, what is going on? And I really thought I had just been dreaming. But days later, like I was in the hospital for like 9 days. I'm driving down the road and this old man pulls next to me, and it's almost like I could feel his emotions.
Mm.
I started crying, and my friend looks at me and said, "Why are you crying?" I said, "I don't know. That man just made me cry." She said, "He didn't do nothing." I was like, "I know, but I could feel."
Yeah.
It's like the weirdest thing. So I'm not saying I have superpowers or anything, but I definitely pick up on emotions more now than I did, especially from other people, which is like a weird feeling.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I don't know how long I was there. It's like there was no sense of time, but just feeling him and seeing our baby, knowing, just like a knowing of things, knowing I was forgiven for what I had done with not having the baby, for what everything I had done, it's
Mm.
still hard to think about, but I don't know. It's almost like everything happened because it needed to happen.
Mhm.
I got that reading. I found out about him. It's like an order. I don't know. But I do know that you're forgiven. If you take your life, you're forgiven. My mom was forgiven. Just the darkness she felt didn't go with her.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I definitely going to go into some questions here, but I know that this is a sensitive area, especially when we're talking about the way someone goes, right? I mean, I talk to people on a daily basis of ways that they pass away, whether it's in kayak accidents, car accidents, airplane crashes, or, life attempts and things like that. And so,
Yeah.
the life attempt ones seem to be some of the hardest to talk about because they are self-inflicted. But I would say this. I go kind of in some weird directions, but I look at a lot of ways people can get ill or I'm trying to be very cautious of how I say this, but I think there's other ways to self-inflict these things on ourselves. It's not always, taking 9 bottles of whatever. And sometimes it can be just being sporadic on the road and running into a tree or like I'm just saying, you know, if our head's not right and our mind's not right and our soul's not right, our spirit's not right, we can go in these different directions. And so you were kind of leading in that direction. You had a lot of loss,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's hard because it starts to make you feel alone, even though technically we're all alone, but we're all at the same time with everyone.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a
Yeah.
weird, mix. And like I keep saying, I keep meeting all these people and so inspired, and I feel like they're like family too, right? So you meet different people and then they become um, you realize you're not as alone as you think, kind of thing. So this happens in life, so I understand it. Your experience is very similar to a lot of people where they're outside of their body watching. So you were above watching your teenager and your father, I think you said,
Yeah.
from above, just watching it. Did you have emotion when you were watching it all, or was it just kind of watching like a show?
Um, it was just kind of watching.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like I was aware of what was going on. I could hear them, I could see them, but I wasn't. I don't know how to describe it. I wasn't feeling attached.
Hmm.
I knew who they were and I knew I loved them, but it wasn't like this overwhelming feeling to just go hug them or whatever.
Right.
So it was very odd. And I
Was
just,
was there any fear
yeah,
attached at all, or did you feel at ease?
no, mm-mm. I wasn't scared. And I think realizing in talking to my friend that's a medium, I actually have two that I know are genuine mediums. The first lady that gave me the reading about my mom, and that's how I found out about Brian. She actually is in Texas and helps them find missing
Oh, wow.
bodies when they're investigating also. Um, when I heard from her, and then he came in without me asking and started relaying messages, I knew then, oh my God, there really is something. Because before then, my fear was you just go to sleep and that would be it. Now I know they're all together. They are happy. They are together. They're watching me. It's still hard, and it was hard for me to cope with. But I guess some people have a choice. I know whether they want to go back, but I was told I had to go back.
Hmm.
Like it just wasn't my time. So that's what kind of makes me emotional because it was so peaceful.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
wasn't this worry and depression, anxiety.
Well, we have a lot of that here. And
Yes.
I feel like a lot of the mission that I'm on running this podcast and the people that are on it is to try to bring some sort of peace of mind to people in the world
Yeah.
because we're here. Like we can't do anything about that. We're here. Well, we can do something about it, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
suggest it. And we don't really know the implications. So the biggest thing I would say is, when I say implications, what I mean is, there's plenty of people I've talked to where they're told, okay, well, you can cross, but you're going back and you're going to do it again. And it may not even be as easy. So right. And I'm not trying to scare anyone with that, but it's
Oh yeah, and
our
I'm not trying
soul's
to
journey.
condone
Right. Our
taking
soul.
your life either. No, I'm not trying
Right.
to glorify it. I'm just saying, like you said, I think everybody's on a different path. Um, I do know some people because I've been doing more research since I experienced what I experienced. Some people will reincarnate, but their soul from this life, from what I understand, will still be there, which is how all my people are there. But then
Mm.
they come back. I don't know how to explain that. Not one of those,
Yeah.
but they come back and do it again. And it's almost like you could still recall some things, almost like deja vu, but you don't know everything.
I totally agree with what you're saying. I see it kind of like we have a higher self. I've used this example before.
Hmm.
Like this is us, this is you. But then you have these spring offs that you can literally have infinite amounts of, is the way I would look at it. And you can
Yeah.
have these kind of this experience, and then when that experience comes back up, well, it's there now, and you've gone off to have another experience. But this there's still this higher piece of who you are. Um, so it makes sense to what you're saying. It's just kind of complicated in the way
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
trying to think about
Like
it.
I knew a week before my mom did what she did. And mind you, I was 14.
Hmm.
I was telling kids because I had transferred schools because my parents were getting ready to separate. I was telling kids, don't, I don't know why, and you have to remember I was a kid. I was telling kids my mom was already dead. She didn't die till a week later. So when she died, I was like, oh my God, it's my fault. Like,
Mm.
why did I say that? As a kid, that's a lot to carry.
Yep.
But it's almost like I knew.
Hmm.
I knew, but I didn't know. I'm realizing a lot more. Like I'm more knowledgeable when it comes to stuff with spirituality and all. It's almost like some people would call an awakening.
Hmm.
After what I went through and what I saw, it's just so weird. Like I
And
can pick up on those things more.
yeah, your intuition is way up. I've also heard of, I've heard of that happening before. Like I've had that exact same thing said to me, kind of predicting a parent's passing, or and then if you're a child, you feel like you caused it, or there's this,
Exactly.
oh my gosh, I
Hmm.
shouldn't have said that because now, well, what's actually happening is the intuition's online, and so
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's not you're causing it. Yes, I do believe in the power of suggestion and the
Yeah.
but there's certain things I don't think we can go around and just hex everyone out of here. It would be a lot easier to, to live here, right? Because people would be doing it all over. Um, but yeah, no, fascinating experience. And I actually, going back to when you had the psychic reading, and then I think it was your boyfriend had come through, the one that you had almost had a child with, right? If
Yeah.
I'm right, he that he was there, and you must have been in shock, right? Like, what? Oh no,
Well, she said, yeah, she said, do you know a Jason? Well, my mind went to my ex-husband because I never called him Jason. I
mm,
called him Brian. He went by his middle name. And I'm thinking, I said, I don't want to talk about my ex-husband. That's the exact words I said to her. She's like, I don't think that's it. She's like, please go check on this. Look around, find it out. And so I started thinking back. And I'm like, here's another time where my intuition was on point. Somebody asked me whatever happened to me and him because I ran into a nurse actually that was working at the hospital when me and him were in there. And so she's like, whatever happened to you and that guy Brian? And I'm like, oh, he died. I don't even know why I said that. That's the only time I ever said that. Come to find out, I was right. Like, I
mm,
just never let myself think about it. I'm like, what is wrong with me? That's what I used to ask. What is wrong with me? Like, what? So to
yeah.
find out, it was like, oh my God, he did love me. He didn't leave me. You know,
So did she say his name, or how did you know she was
when I
talking about
went
him?
back, yeah, she did. She said Jason, but
Oh,
that's his legal first name. That's
oh,
Yeah,
wow,
Jason Bryan is his name, but he went by Brian.
wow.
She did. And that's why I was like, ooh, my ex-husband. Because I never thought about it because I never called him that. It's like,
Right. Wow, that's something. Okay, so wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I had the same. That was kind of my awakening was when I was before I started getting into NDE stuff. I was in my late teens. I was going through anxiety, and I had a psychic do a reading on me online, and it was things were just taking off. No one knew what I looked like, anything like that. And this woman, who was an older woman, described the way I looked to a T. Like and I had no profiles anywhere. This is on a program called Pal Talk back in the day. It wasn't, there was nothing out there. It was, and
yeah,
it scared me. I, I pulled the power cord out of the wall from my computer because I thought she had somehow voodooed into my life or something because it was so accurate.
right?
I had little frosting tips at the time, I was,
Oh my gosh,
and
like
she
the guy
was,
in sync.
yeah, yeah. She was, and she described me like exactly. She even told me I had anxiety about health anxiety, and I was sitting on my foot at the time, and my foot was numb. And I thought, oh, I'm having a stroke or like I'm having I don't know what I was thinking. And she literally said, and you're not having something wrong with you. You're sitting on your leg. She was picking up my thoughts. It was
Yeah.
so precise that there was no questioning in my mind that something out of the ordinary world had happened. And I think it had to be dramatic like that for me because I'm a bit of a dramatic person in the idea that
So am I.
I need to be proven. So,
Hmm.
and I ran down the stairs. My mom's full laundry. And I'm white as a ghost. And she said, "What happened?" And we talked for hours about spirituality. And that was kind of the beginning of everything. So, I'm only relating it because you had this
Oh
online
yeah, for sure.
experience, the same kind of
When I
thing. So,
did find out that he was really gone, I went back. I found out from his family how he passed, everything. I went back and had a reading just to have him come through to see what would pick up. And she knew everything. She knew about the baby. And there's no way. Like you said, this was back when social media was just not picking up. He died in '03, actually. And it was just starting to take off. And we didn't have nothing out there, like nothing like that. And she knew about my mom's little white dog. I mean, you have to remember, my mom died in 1995. There was no social media. I do have pictures on my mom on my page, but it's private. So nobody could have looked all this stuff up.
mm,
There's no way. I never had a picture of him up there until after this happened and stuff. So for her to know all these details and exactly how he died, I knew something had to be going on.
right. So you knew that. Now, did
And
that happen before
so
or after
that's
the
what led me
NDE?
to do it.
Sorry, was that before or
This
after
was
the NDE?
before.
This was
This
before.
was before, and that's why I figured it was okay. I knew I would just go be with them. So I'm like,
Mm,
okay, well, my depression, I can't take this no more. All the guilt, the trauma from my past. At this point, I had started remembering some sexual abuse that I experienced as a child. it was just a lot piling up. And I was like, there really is life after death. So I'm just going to go be peaceful, not
Mhm.
thinking about my children on earth and stuff, you know, my son who had already lost his father. It's, it was just a lot, but I think it had to happen to get me where I am now. Because now I can put things to rest. I know my mom's okay. I know Brian loved me. I know he's okay. He's at peace. I know my son, my unborn son, is there. It's just so much. And it's like a weight lifted.
Have you had a new appreciation on life? I know that's a tough
Yes,
question.
it is
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
still have days where I'm like, oh, wish I just would have
Hmm.
kept going and told him, nope, I'm staying because that's how stubborn I am. But yes, because I know I guess my work's not done.
Right.
My daughter has autism. I'm still helping her, you know, I need to be here.
Hmm.
Her father lives across the country. My son lost his dad, so I'm his only parent, and he's engaged to get married now. You know, I would have missed all that. So, yeah, and I think it would have killed my dad.
Hmm.
So I can't hurt my dad like that. Not again.
The other thing is we have to all realize we have some of us potentially have 100 years in this life, and it could be something you do between age 70 and 85 that is the reason. So I
Yep,
think there's a bigger storyline running, and there must be some reason you decided to come back. You had this experience where you were going towards a light, so you
yep,
know you were shifting into something a little bit different. Um, and you saw when you saw your the boyfriend you had with the baby, did they look real? Like what was the did they look
yeah.
ghostly? Like how
Actually,
would you describe them?
he looked like him. Like I'd always remembered him. He had a hat on. You know, I
Right.
mean, it was just instant. It wasn't like it was like me sitting here talking to you. Like he was there, but we weren't talking. It was like telepathically. Like I
Mhm.
knew what he was telling me. It's like a knowing. That's the hardest part to describe because his mouth wasn't moving, but I could see him
Right. Right.
and I knew.
And his message is that it's not your time. You got
It's
stuff to
yeah,
do.
you need to go back. He wasn't mean about it.
Yeah.
He was stubborn. And so when I brought that up later to one of my good friends, April, that's a medium, she said, I said, you know, I really thought I would have seen my mom. She said, you don't see who you think you need to see. You see who you need to see.
Right.
And I guess he was the one that they knew could get me to go back.
Hmm.
And come to find out, I don't know how you feel about this or anybody else that's going to be listening, but we were soulmates. We will be together in the next life. It's
Oh,
like all part of the plan. We met
yeah.
early because his, I guess his destiny was to go early.
I've had people on the show break into that more around soul groups, soul mates, soul twin flames. There's all these things. And then I'll have other people who don't buy into it as much. I,
I don't
I,
believe in twin flames. That's just me. But a
yeah,
soulmate, I think you got different kinds of soulmates. Like
right.
it could be your best friend. It could
Mhm.
be, you know, whatever. And you also have life partners who you're supposed to have this journey with, but they're not forever. Like my ex-husband, we were supposed to have my daughter. She's here for a reason, you know, my son's dad. Um, but Brian was my soulmate. I know he's there. I know we'll be together in the afterlife when it's my time.
Right.
Um, but there could be someone else I'm supposed to do something with on this earth, and it still kind of hurts me, but I know it's true. Like
Mhm.
another, just a life partner that I'm supposed to
Mhm.
experience something with.
Yeah.
So
And it's hard,
it's hard.
especially when you're close and you have that soulmate attachment to somebody. This is why a lot of people, how often do you hear people who are together for their whole life and in their 80s, one passes and then 2 weeks later the other one passes and they have no
Yes.
health concerns. I think it's because they're like, no, okay, that's it. I'm not going to go try to find the other one. But I do believe there are a number of soulmates. I believe there's a number of soul, and they're part of these soul groups or whatever. I just feel that only because there's a number of times in my life where I've met someone and been like, whoa. Like, I don't
Yes.
know where you came from, but like I can walk by 50 people and not have that feeling, but that one person, and I'm not talking about
Yeah.
attraction. I'm talking about
Oh
something
yeah, I
deeper
know.
than the
Yeah.
attraction. So, yeah, I just there's something there. And maybe I'm wacky thinking that, but I do
No, because
feel
I
that the
feel the
same
same
way.
way.
Yeah.
I mean, like we were only 15 when we met, and it was like instant.
Yeah.
Like that bond was just, it was unbreakable. I mean, 8 years at that age, I know people do it, but that's a long time
Yeah.
and a lot of stuff
Yeah.
to go through. But I also have that connection with like certain friends.
Hmm. Yeah, I think we also have different way we treat relationships different here than probably the way it is on the other side. Like here it's like that one person forever and that's it, and that's you have to do like it's like there's just a different
Yeah.
feeling. And so I think there are closer bonds from souls possibly,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's the same. And I think we're silly to think we know that, or we probably feel
I think that
different over there.
when we go, because after my experience and after the reading, I've done a lot of research and just trying to find myself and understand everything. I think you keep your personality when you're over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're still the same person, but you have a wider understanding of everything. Like my daughter is not, she doesn't talk to her father. So when she goes, if he wants to reconnect or whatever, if they don't before, and God knows, I hope they do on earth, she gets that choice. They still have an understanding of why things turned out the way they turned out, but she has that choice to let him be around her all the time or to not. But you still, it's like you understand everything. Like my dad is old school. He believes that when you pass, God does not let you see anything that happens on earth because it would cause you pain. That's, I respect my dad's belief, but now I know when you go, you can see what happens with everybody here, but you don't get upset to the point you're like, oh my God, because you understand why it's happening
Right.
and you know what's going to come out on the other side. Like, so it's different.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I think emotion is a little bit different over there. I do, for people who've experienced loss here though, and they are talking to, we all have those moments. I lost a good friend just a couple of years ago, and I'll be driving, just talking to her, and just um, uh, emotionally, I'll be having moments, and I want to feel like she understands how difficult of a time I'm
Yeah,
having. And I think they can empathize with that. I just don't think it would upset them because they would know the greater purpose. Um,
exactly. That,
right.
yeah, that you're better at wording it. That's kind of what I was trying to say. Like,
Yeah.
I also think if I would have seen my mother, it's been so long and so much unsaid. I don't think I would have fought to not come back.
Mm.
I kind of think that's why, not that I didn't want to go be with Brian or our baby, but it's just he just let me know, you're not done. You got, you still got Layla, you got Tyler, and there's like you said, I think there's a bigger purpose with me helping people down the road. This was breaking the ice for me. I was a nervous wreck.
Mm.
But you've made it a comfortable experience. So
That's good. Well, I'm happy that's the case. I mean, at the end of the day, this is your life, right? This is all of our lives that we have, and we all have different experiences. Did it change your, I don't know if you had, well, I think you said you did, but did it change any type of fear towards death?
yes, big time.
Yeah.
Like even though my granddaddy was a minister, I have so much respect for him. He was one of the kindest men I ever knew in my life. Um, I don't knock anybody that goes to church that's religious. And everybody has their beliefs, but a loving God is not going to turn you away. You have to self-repent when you go. I mean, you're going to feel all the emotions that you made other people feel. You're
Mhm.
going to know how they felt. And you have to choose to forgive yourself so you can move on and have that eternity. But everybody, I believe, even me, everybody's going to have that chance to repent and understand and feel. I'm saying this because I'm not knocking religion. I have respect for everybody, but a loving God would not cast people out like some people that are real religious belief. Everybody has done bad things. I mean, I'm not saying he's gonna open the gate and be like, Jeffrey Dahmer, come on in. But
Right.
he is gonna still give him that chance to repent.
Right. Yeah,
That's just my belief.
no, and you're not the only person to say that, especially the near-death experience community people I talk to. And it's kind of one of those areas that I'm sure people listening, some people will disagree with because it's easier to
Oh
think,
yeah.
no, they're gonna go and live eternity in somewhere terrible or whatnot. And I get it. I get why we would think that way because
Oh, me too.
there's some bad things we see in this world. I like to stay on the positive side of things, and it's just I'm like a
You have
glass
to
half full kind
forgive.
of person. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying. I used to be the type that, oh God, you hurt me, you stay away from me. Or I would hurt them before they could hurt me because I had so much trauma. I'm not saying I condone what anybody hurts anybody else physically, sexually, whatever. But I am saying we all come have a choice to try to earn that forgiveness. And honestly, with the life review, because I believe that's what I was seeing on the back screen. It was like my life review because
Hmm.
I was hearing the most random commercials from my childhood. And just it was the weirdest thing. Um,
Wow.
I think that feeling the emotions you cause to other people is going to be one of the worst punishments you can
Yeah.
ever get. And I don't look forward to the day that I feel some of the things I've done to people, but it has made me a better person, a more understanding person, a more forgiving person. So I'm grateful for that. I have to forgive that.
Hmm.
So that's a hard thing to grasp, but he deserves to be forgiven too. And that's a hard thing for me to say. And I'm sure I'm
I
going to
know.
get a lot of flack for half the stuff I've said,
I
but
can no,
you know,
I can see it in your face though. I mean, you can still tell it's hard. You're a human being. You're gonna still feel emotion. And just because you're
yeah,
saying something doesn't mean you actually quite feel it and you're trying and you're working through it. That's part of being a
yeah,
human being. But I would
exactly.
say if we do know that we're gonna feel the emotions of our the actions we took in our life on other people, it might be good to start working on that now while you're here
Yeah.
because I really truly believe we're kind of a mirage of both sides. So I think that, that's why it's you got to be careful where your energy state is when we do go here. You got to try to live the best life you can because I think I've had so many NDEs. There's been a couple where they're here 1 minute and the next minute they're still here, but they're in a different place. Like it's almost like it's
Mhm.
just like, and that emotional feeling they still had inside of them, that person they are, is still there. So that's why it's important for us to try to find the light here and to work through our things here, so that
Mhm.
when we get there, it's going to make it that much easier. Even if we do have to still feel those emotions, we're like, okay, well, I was working on that back there, so let's just continue that feeling. Because if you're not, or if you're just ignoring it your whole life and you think you get away with everything, it's going to be quite a rude awakening, I would think, going over there and experiencing
Yeah,
that.
I used to feel like, oh, well, I've been through a lot, so I'm entitled to this, or I'm going to treat her like this or him like that because, I'm just angry at the world. And that's how I
Mhm.
was for the longest time.
Yeah.
And, when I had my first child, it kind of softened me, but
Hmm.
it's like that trauma, everything was going to still come up until I finally just, you know what, I have got to deal with this.
Yeah.
I got to do it. Therapy, hospitals, whatever is not working. I've got to do something. So now I see it on a broader spectrum and I'm like, you know what? I understand. This sucks, but some of what my dad used to say, some of the God's toughest soldiers get the hardest hand to deal with.
Hmm.
I look at it as I don't think that we all have a choice on this earth. I don't think he was like, well, you're going to go to earth and you're going to just experience all this crap and learn to deal with it. But I do
Right.
think there is a reason for it. And I might not understand it now, but I'm starting to more and more. And
Hmm.
that's where I'm at. Like I know I'm going to find that peace one day. I might be 80, Lord knows, but
Yeah.
I've got to find my reason for being here.
Yeah.
especially if I don't want to do it again.
Right. That's
I
right.
don't want to do it
Yeah.
again.
Well, the wild thing is some people have told me pre-birth stories of picking the things that they're going to go through. And I go, holy, that is like pouring hot wax on your body. Like why would we do
Right?
why would we do something like that? But there's
I've
some
heard that too.
I think there's a grander purpose as to why. And then, if you say that, people are like, how dare you? You're saying I caused this, and I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying what other people have said. Um, and at the same time, though, I think one of the greatest things I learned when I was in my early 20s and late teens, when I started working in a social work and working with troubled youth and stuff, is I'd have to read case files on what these kids went through. And it completely rearranged how I would feel if I saw an ignorant, mean person committing a bad, thing they're doing in life. I would all of a sudden right away instead of reacting, I'm still human, so there is some reaction there, but I would then immediately go like, wow, what happened to them? What did they go through to get there?
Yeah,
Um,
there's always a reason why we are the way we are. I was talking with a childhood friend yesterday. We were just catching up, and that's one of the things he said, and I totally agree with it. Like looking back, I know why I reacted to a lot of situations the way that I did. It's because of a lot of, the stuff I went through as a child, a young adult, and even into my older adulthood. But now I try to stop and I'm like, you know what? I gotta fix this. I gotta do something. I'm the only one that can do it. And I think that's one of the reasons I was told I'm not done. I got to fix all this. I've got to forgive people, and I'm supposed to help people. I
mhm.
did do the suicide walk. Um, they have the suicide walk out of the darkness,
Okay.
and I was one of the people that went up on stage and I put beads in for my mom and beads in for me because I attempted. And that is a way to help people and bring
Yeah.
awareness. And I think there's more to come. Um, I'm just figuring that out. It's just how to go about finding it.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of leads in right away. My brain started thinking about how you said when you came back, and I think you were with a friend in a car, and you picked up on the emotions of this older man in another vehicle and the
Yeah,
intuition that was coming through. Do you feel like at times you still get that? Like, are you working on how to like, because I notice a lot of people have NDEs, they come back and eventually at some point, I'm not saying you're going to do this, but they get into like a healing type art or a healing work. Like they start to kind of
that's
like,
where I'm kind of headed. That's what
okay,
I want to do. Yep.
okay, yeah,
I just haven't decided exactly what my niche, I guess it is and what exactly I want to do, but I still pick up on things. I've helped several friends. I could feel their emotion and read it on their face. One girl, we're really close, we hang out a lot. I'm not gonna say her name for privacy, but she listened to me, took my advice and everything, and now she's doing so much better. She's on medication that's helping her because it's like I can read people their face. I can feel their pain, but I don't know the exact details of it,
right,
if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah. You're just
And I
picking,
know
you're,
when they need help.
yeah, yeah. It's and it is I mean, I'm a coach myself and I more into music, and I do some life coaching and stuff, but even in the music side, I sometimes I can't help but mention something
Hmm.
if I notice something and and I think that as we progress in this world, you're going to see more and more of that work coming up because we're starting to understand that we're not just the meat suit. There's something else happening. There's more going on, and that's part of the mission. So it's to
Hmm.
that's our evolution. Really, like
Yep.
that's how we evolve. I mean, we can't continue to keep doing this. It's got to progress. There's always
Yeah.
progression, right? I mean, maybe there's progression and regression through human evolution. I don't really understand it. But I just know that we're leading that way. Look at these type of shows and the amount of people that tune in and want to know about what happens, right? So you're
Oh,
probably
like
headed
true
in that direction.
crime and then NDEs and
Hmm.
I mean people are just so on the it's almost like they go one way. Like when I was really depressed, I was all into watching true crime and all this stuff. I don't know why. I still find some of it fascinating, but now I'm more, let's go watch this other thing. Like all these NDEs, hear what people have to say, and I want to know and learn more. I
Hmm.
want to be out in nature more ever since I did what I did. And I was a hermit for a while. Like I didn't talk to nobody. I didn't do nothing because I was so depressed. But now it's like I feel lighter. I feel lighter. I wanted to work on my stuff. And that's like weird, but I never thought I'd get to that point. But it's like I can see it in my face too. I'm not as weighed down as I was.
Yeah. And it's hard though because it can become a security blanket. It becomes part
It
of our identity. And I know that sounds
yes.
bizarre too, but the truth. I see it in social work
No,
all
it
the
is.
time. It's like even if I talk to people, they'd be like, "Okay, I understand what you're saying, and I want to be that person, but I can't be that person. Like I'm this person, and I like that would mean that none of that mattered, and it didn't hurt me, and it didn't. I'm like, I understand that. I understand
That
that.
I was in that time,
Yeah,
that mind space for a long time.
yeah. It's a tough
I
place
had
to
to
be.
tell everybody about my trauma as soon as I met them. Well,
Yeah.
this is why I am the way I am because this is what my mom did. This is that. I catch myself doing it now, but not like I did. It's more of you can get past it. You can learn, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
I mean, you've seen my Facebook. I post things about my mom. I mean, I want to bring awareness because when my mom died in 95, it was not as heard of for someone, especially a woman, to take her life in the manner that she did.
Hmm.
And the stigma has got to be broken because people are sick just because you can't see it and treat it with chemotherapy or stuff like that. Mental illness is it's a disease.
Hmm.
It's a sickness, and I also think people that go through a lot of hardships have the ability to tap into emotions and stuff more, if that makes sense. Like,
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. I because well, you're more empathetic to other people's feelings and stuff. It's the same thing like you said, well, I don't know why I watch true crime. Well, I think it's because there's a relation. You're not saying you're going to do any of these, but you're trying to
yeah,
see how did this person get to that point? Like what got them there? How did there's this kind of like you're trying to kind of not relate, but kind of understand them. I think we're all trying to understand people of all different walks, right? So, but at the same time, I think there's a point where you switch from um, I don't want to use the word victim, but uh, the person that had something done to you to the person that helps others heal through it. And
exactly.
for instance, I could say to you, going back now, and this is a tough question to answer. You may not even know the answer to this, but obviously you got to this place through having this experience. Um,
Hmm.
I always say to people, how do we get there without needing that experience? Right? How is it that we get to this place where we finally break free from our own
Yeah,
suffocation, our own whatever it is, in order to be able to release and move forward? A lot of people will say things like starting to use spiritual practices like meditation or just, going in nature or trying to, but you have to break through your your habits, right, to get there. And
yeah. I get
I don't
what
know
you're
if you
saying,
feel that
and
way, but yeah.
yeah. I was always, it didn't matter what situation it was, whether it was my divorce which was very turmoil, like we were evil to each other. Um, whatever situation I was in, at the end of the day, I would still complete the same cycle where I'm just like, okay, I'm going to start therapy. I'm going to stop. Why does all this bad stuff, like, woe is me? Which I had a reason to be upset,
Of course.
but I'm not condoning taking your life. Please, everybody know that. But I think in my situation, I had to hit that rock bottom. I had to, come to those realizations, find closure when it came to Brian, find closure when it came to my mom, in order to be able to be the person, the mom, the future grandma, whatever that I'm going to be. Because otherwise, I would have just kept going in the same cycles, same cycles.
Right.
I'd do good for 6 months and then bam, something bad happened and I'm right back to the way I was. Uh, but even when you don't have an NDE, you got to, something's got to give for you to realize, oh my God, I'm the only one that can change this. I've got to work on this.
Right. I completely understand that. I've heard that term rock bottom many times too, and I think I would say to anybody out there listening, rock bottom can mean a lot of different things to a lot of people.
Hmm.
But the biggest thing I would say is if you know you're in that rock bottom place, reach out to a friend, to someone, to
Definitely.
there's a lot of hotlines out there, places like that, because that could be the thing you need too. But you need to understand that's where you're at, right?
Yeah.
Um, so and with you, it was around a lot of loss from it sounds like it. So you had so much loss in your life that, you didn't really know which way you were going. I think listening to your story, if I may, I just want to say it like this. I think you running into the psychic earlier on who brought up your first, I think that was a first attempt to get you to kind of shift. It was like, hey,
Yeah.
let's try to reach her while she's there. Like she's still
Yes.
there. Let's try to and then that, maybe it gave a little bit of a jolt, but it clearly kept going until you got to where you got. And what I would say also to people is just be aware of 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 the messages. If we can start becoming more aware, then we might be like, oh, we can become more aware of that before we get to that place. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
so because
I
that
I
to me,
believe the same
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
It had to happen. I mean, she said she had never. I don't have TikTok anymore, so, but I do text her here and there. She said she never had a spirit come in that strong like Brian did that way. She knew I needed, or he knew that I needed that closure. I had to know what happened in order to move on with my life.
mm,
And then everything else just started piling on. But I can look back now and say I'm grateful because now it's like a weight lifted. There's
mhm,
no wondering, where is he? Why did he stop talking to me when we loved each other? Also knowing my mom's at peace
yeah,
and they're all together. And now I can work on everything else, the after effects of everything, and try to be better for my family, for my friends, for the people that I hope in the future. Again, I'm not condoning anybody attempting, but like you said, everybody has their different rock bottom.
right, yeah. Well, I love that you're now finding that. Do you have anything you do now personally that if you're kind of feeling like you're kind of slipping, like something to kind of bring you out of it? Is there anything in particular you do?
I got to focus on something else.
Yeah,
I've been going to the gym, trying to get in shape.
yeah.
I'm actually gonna do my first like yoga class tonight because I heard that's a good thing.
Oh, nice.
I still have my days. I'm not just running around like, oh, everything's happy.
Right,
But I'm so much better at dealing with it. Sometimes I just know I need to just go get a cup of coffee and sit down with a book.
right.
I gotta have my time. I'm overstimulated. This is no more. But it's definitely not like it was, where I would take like 5 or 6 Xanax and just go to sleep because I was so depressed.
Yeah.
Like I'm so far from being there now, and it's hard to look back and realize how depressed I really was.
Hmm. Well, I love how real and authentic you've been too, because trust me, as we all know, looking through social media and celebrities and all these things, there's a lot of people that they look like they've got it all, and then you hear something and you
Hmm.
go, wow, like what happened? So to hear like an authentic voice, like you're saying, like you still have your rough days, but you find like you're working through it though. And
Yeah.
I mean, you're on the show and you're sharing it with other people.
And
And
this was really hard for me. I was thinking of every reason not to do it
right.
because I know I'm going to be judged for a lot of the things that I said. If people look at me like that, it is what it is because I'm starting to realize we all go through stuff. It's
Mhm.
we all go through our stuff. We all hit rock bottom at some point in our life, whether we realize it or not. Um, but we have to keep going. And if
Mhm.
I'm going to be nervous to see the comments under this, but
I'll tell
what
you
can I
something.
do?
I'll tell you
I've
some.
forgiven myself,
Mhm.
so what they say doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. I was gonna say, as a musician, I can tell you something. You know, I say this because, when you release music and you're in the industry and all that, you always want to get good feedback. You're kind of always living this, like you have to look good, you have to sound good, everything's got to be perfect, 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 perfect. And I've said it many times on your previous episodes. I had one incident where I did a show and my manager wrote and said, like this person, they want to be anonymous, but said that your song just listening to your song changed their decision to take their life that night. And that was one person out of all the things I've done. And any time that I go to a space of, oh, I hope people are gonna like this song, or I just go, oh, I already did it. I already achieved everything I need to achieve because I affected one person. So the way I look at it now is when I release an episode, if I get one like on that show, it means one person listening to it liked it. And what that means is you already let one person already liked your story. And then if you could have 100 negative comments, but that one like means one person liked it. Now you're gonna get more than one
If
like.
I, yeah,
But that's my
if I
point is
help,
that
yeah.
we tend to go to the bad side of it. We don't look at it like it's so easy to be like, oh, all those people that liked it. Okay, well, forget them. Hold on. Let's see how bad people think I am. It's like, but that's what we do. It's just
Yeah.
nature. It's human nature. So, um, and you'll always get it. I've had to do that just going on doing this kind of show, going, Joe, what are you doing? You're doing a podcast on spirituality, not music. It's like, yeah, why?
If I
You've
help
actually,
one person
yeah,
with mental illness or,
yeah,
you know, whatever, then you're right. Like, it's worth it.
yeah.
What's that song by Elton John? Someone Saved My Life Tonight.
Right, right, right.
I'm an old soul. Like I like 80s, 90s music, all that. Music that can speak to you.
Mhm.
But that's
Yeah.
my goal. I want to help people. I mean, there's a lot more to my story, but eventually it will come when it's time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I've loved listening to it, and like you're one of many people who've opened up and shared their experience on the show, and including people who going down the same road you went, unfortunately, with that. And but now you're on this other side of it, and again, the message I always put out there is if anyone's in that space you have more people there than you know, and so. But I know that's a hard thing to say because when a person's in that space, they're just thinking if it from their own space. They're not looking at it
Yeah,
from outside.
I
Um,
see it more now. I'm more
yeah.
aware. Like as a kid, when my mom did it, like I said, like there wasn't a lot talked about when it came to
Mhm.
that, especially with a woman. I mean,
Mhm.
it was around the same time all that stuff happened with Kurt Cobain. I mean, that's how old I am, but
Yeah.
I mean, so people really looked at me like almost like I was a leper, like just weird, just like,
Mm.
what is she dealing with? Why is she acting like that? You know,
Right.
it's a hard thing to deal with, but now it's so much more talked about and I can feel the emotions of other people. But I just don't want no one else to feel like that. So that's my point in trying to do all this.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you're also sharing the fact that when you did get close to the other side, that you did have an experience that in a lot of people's lives would have completely
Yes.
shook their world because you go, oh, I am more than this. There's something else going on. Such a fascinating story about you were having, in my opinion, a life review in the background. It was starting up. There was something starting up because you were hearing your past. You were going through it, yet you weren't quite cycling into that energy yet. So, because a lot of people have it in
Yeah.
different ways, right? But that's what it sounds. That's
Hmm.
what I'm getting from it. I could be wrong, but it sounds like you were hearing
That's what I got. Yeah.
parts of your past. So, yeah, yeah. A lot of people go into it and then they actually
That
experience.
was weird. I
Yeah.
was and it was loud.
Oh, really? Wow.
It was so loud.
That's
Yeah.
wow.
That when I woke up eventually, when I woke up, I looked to see how loud the TV was. I was like, was that the TV? Because it took me a little while to realize that's what it was. I really
Wow.
thought, like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah.
And I was in a coma. There's no way I could have just, yeah,
When you
it
came
was
back,
weird.
did you immediately feel like it was a different realm?
Yeah, it's like, it was so fast. Like I
Mhm.
said, like a vacuum being pulled back. And then it's almost like instantly my eyes open and I'm like, and the nurse actually looked at me and she was like, we didn't think you were ever going to wake up because they had taken the ventilator and all off. And I just still was not there. They were like,
Wow.
what is going on? And I looked around and I was like, now I feel the physical pain of what I've gone through. I didn't feel
Uh,
it then. And I felt the heaviness and of the emotions that I felt the day I did what I did. And it was a definitely different feeling because it's so much lighter. over there. You feel so much lighter, so much
Right.
relief. And like, again, I'm not, saying go do that. That's the
I know.
solution. But
It's a weird area of the show. I get a lot of people that talk about Oasis over there, and I'm like, well, we're here. And
yep,
and I also think that you can, I think there's reasons why we're here. I think there's big time reasons why we're here. And if we're going to honor that, we go through it and we work through it and we help others through it. And that's the whole point. Um, you only got so much time, so why not find the things that can light you up here? Because it's not forever here in this physical, regardless.
no,
So
it feels like it.
it
It feels
it
like it
can.
when you're going through
Oh,
stuff
I
or you're
know.
young.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
I
think
know.
that's why I needed a wake up call because I'm in my 40s. I'm
Yeah,
not getting any younger. My dad's not getting any younger. And I was wasting all these years with my father, with my kids. I mean, just thinking about all the things I've been through and who did me wrong and why am I like the woe is me. And I needed something to wake me up like, hey, you're halfway through your life now. I mean, the average
right.
person lives 80 or so. Um, you got to do something different.
Yeah. Well, I can see it happening because again,
Well,
once you
thank
kind of,
you.
it's one of these things like once you know, you know. Like yes, we
Hmm.
can kind of go back to we all I think we automatically are a certain way inside. So we can always kind of retract back to these parts of us that we're not really fond of or things like that.
100%.
But I
Yeah.
find that the more we work through each time, it's almost like they're short-lived. Do you find that? Like those moments are
Yeah.
shorter lived? It's like, okay, yeah, okay, I've already been there. Let's keep going. And then it's like
Yep.
and then eventually the whole point is to get to a place where you're just in this like you live in kind of a heaven on earth. And while you're here, it's what we're
You
supposed to be
become
doing.
at peace with everything.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, I'm still going to face hardships
Hmm.
when I lose my dad, you know, when I get older and I get sick or whatever. I'm sure I'm going to face more stuff, but now I feel like I can look at it different. Like, you know what? I'm going to be with him again. I'm going to, my dad or whatever. I'm a big daddy's. I'm
Yeah.
a big daddy's girl. My dad has been my rock through everything.
Mm.
Um, I don't know what I'd do without him, but that's why I had to get better too. I want my dad to see me on this side doing good and get to enjoy his older years with me and
Mm.
and not have to worry.
Well,
And but that's nothing that I would think about before.
I can tell you someone's about to have his third girl within about 4 weeks. Um, uh, that's all we want. You know that as a parent yourself, like that you just want to see
Hmm.
your kids in a better place than we were. And I think that's why
Exactly.
a lot of people get upset about, economy issues and these things. We want them to live an even better life than we could. And it's hard sometimes, but you just keep pushing. You have to have a positivity about it. And you're right.
Yeah,
You're here for that. So it's
I have to
absolutely,
break the cycle. Like I
yeah.
have to break the cycle. I mean, my mom died by suicide. Almost died by suicide. I don't want my kids to follow that same thing. So I have to break the cycle. I had to get better, but it took some awareness to figure it out. And I think I'm so stubborn that
Mhm.
I had to learn the really hard way so
Right.
that,
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what that felt like, losing a mother like that, and I think that sometimes that's why I think people who are out there who are in that space, it's really good to talk to people because there's groups for people too, where you can go and talk to
mhm,
people of what it was like losing someone like that. And it's not to put guilt on people, but it's
no,
to bring, because we get stuck in our own self-consumed like world, and I understand it. I completely understand it. I haven't had the easiest life either, like so I understand it. But you have to kind of somehow break out and look at it like, hey, like there's other people out here and let's help them. Let's get them
yeah,
to a good place because that lights us up too. So if you were to look at everything right now where you're at, I ask everybody at the end of my show, our main purpose here in life, what do you think our main purpose is to come here?
to learn. That's the first thing that comes to mind, to learn. Like evolve, learn. And I do, if you look back, anybody looks back on their life, I think you can see repeated patterns on how you deal with things, what you go through, the people you're around. And until you learn that, you don't evolve spiritually, or here on this earth, you have to evolve or you're going to keep repeating the same thing with the same results. And I really believe we're here to learn and to help and then pass the baton to someone else
Mm,
at the end of our life.
I love
I
that.
mean, there's going to be people like my mom that did, maybe her mission was to get me on a different path. I don't know, but there's always going to be those, well, what was their purpose then if they died by that? They didn't live through it. There's always going to be those questions, but I have to stop beating myself up with that and just focus on what I can do because
Yeah.
I'll see my mom again. I'll see Brian again. I'll see my baby again.
And I get that. I never really thought about that, where people will actually question, well, if you feel that way, then what was your mom thinking, right? Well, maybe your
Uh-huh.
mother knew that if that happened with her, the lessons it would teach you to show
Yeah.
people not to do that. Like there's so many ways we could look at that, right? So,
Yeah. I do believe she felt all the emotions. Like when she had her life review, she probably knew what she's put me through, putting my dad through, all that. Um, but I agree. There had to be something she just wasn't strong enough. And
mm,
I fell into I'm so much like her in a lot of ways, good and bad, but I'm getting there. I'm not saying my mom was a bad person. She had her struggles, but I agree with you. I think maybe her purpose was to teach me. That's the only way I can look at it, because
yeah,
what else are you gonna do? I can ask the what if questions for the rest of my life. I'm never gonna really know till I'm with her over there. And I
right.
think that's another reason they didn't send her to send me back. I would have been like, well, why'd you do it? Da, da, da.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to go.
right. Right. And again, there's
So,
that grand purpose around it. And, we are like our parents, and the biggest thing we can do is harness onto the good parts of them. Try to be,
mhm.
try to take what they gave you in the good parts and become that. I think
Yep.
I feel the same way about my own father and things like that. So, um, you try your best, right? But this has been an amazing conversation. I'm really appreciating you taking the time today and talking about your experience and
Yeah.
to show people, how you can overcome these things. And I think, I would also one more time say to anybody out there that is struggling with anything, please reach out, regardless of what you think is going to happen eventually. It's even good just to talk to somebody. But I really do appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for having patience with me with scheduling. I had to get to that point where I was like, okay,
Yeah,
I
no,
could do this.
absolutely. No, you've been great. It's been an amazing conversation. And if again, also with anyone, I always say please like, share, and subscribe to the Soul Inspired. If this one's a big one. So if it speaks to someone who might get something out of it or help them, please share it with
I hope
them.
so.
So thank you so much again. Appreciate it.
Thank you and congratulations on your new daughter here soon.
Thank you. Yeah, she'll be here in 4 weeks, so it's gonna get busier. So.
So